of Soulogy. As we continue to expand and push the envelope on this trip, let me know if it sounds okay. I think it's all right. We got Franco in the house. He's been, him and Kimberly have been sharing space with me, and it's been very cool. We've had a lot of fellowship with a lot of friends. So we had, not last night, but the 2 previous nights, we had just an impromptu conversation. And we talked about a lot of different things, and I thought it was very interesting. After the first night, I received a big download the next morning. And, you know, everything's connected. And so we thought we would try something a little bit different. We're not in the studio. We're sitting on the couch.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, we were just going to jump into whatever. Did you?
Yeah. Well, we can do, our intent is to have a chat, and it's kind of an open platform type chat with no real direction. But usually the best conversations work that way. We have no intention when we get started with even any conversations we've had or with groups and stuff like that. And it tends to expand exactly where it needs to go. And I like what you just said, because in regards to, you know, any conversation we have, any sharing we have, it doesn't come just with conversation. There's codes in there, there's energies coming in. And because a lot of people relate with not only the conversation, but the energies in there, what it ends up doing is that everybody becomes a part of the conduit. And that not only affects their lives in a very profound way, but it affects people in their lives. And it also has a huge impact on the collective. So, and that's what makes it all fun. And this is what makes it interesting for us to do things like this. Yeah. Because, you know, and really we're not narrating any part of it. It's really being governed by the people that are playing with us.
Yeah. Yeah. I always have understood that this vortex is created, like Abraham Hicks talks about, by the people watching live, obviously the people involved on camera, and also the people that watch on replay, because there's no linear time. So we've experienced a lot of vortex type of energy, I think, since we had the Soulogy Fest. It's been interesting. So there's a lot of stuff playing out. I know Soulogy Fest, our community, our vortex has been paralleling the collective. And Franco's very, to me anyway, he's very much on point when it comes to what we think we're seeing and what we think we're receiving, because so much of the Soulogy energy, in my opinion, and really what is coming to the forefront in all of our lives is, you know, beyond the word authenticity, even beyond the word raw. I think it's just pure vulnerability. And I think a lot of times when we're vulnerable, we don't even know it. And it's such a golden thing. We've seen a lot of it. And part of the conversation that we had 3 nights ago had to do with, your situation with your body. And of course, it's all wrapped up together with your journey. And it was really, to me, a high level conversation, but it was a high level conversation because it was taken in both extremes. We all know that Franco is a very special person. And we all know, and he feels this way, that we're all equal. Mm-hmm. But we all have different specificities and specialties, I guess would be the right word. And so we know Franco has a wealth of experience that's beyond what most of ours is. It's just his turn this time, or whatever it might be, you know. But he also has the other side of it, which we're probably more attuned with, which is the human side, because he's had that information from several planetary incarnations, even from the womb in this incarnation, and just high-level communications, intel downloads, transmissions, activations throughout his life from day one that we can't all really relate to. But it was interesting talking to him because there was a tremendous amount of code for me. And as a transmitter of collective energy, I'm just sensitive to that. So he was telling a little bit about his story. And it, in my opinion, it contained both ends of the spectrum and everything in between, the pure human and the pure ET. Or whatever he is. So I don't know if you want to talk about that, if you're comfortable with it. If not, we can just go on to other things, or however you want to.
Well, I mean, it's all of us in a way are somewhat of an ET of sorts when we're talking about our multidimensional souls, but then we also have the human component that comes into play. the only reason we come on a planet like planet Earth and take on a human body is because we have to use, or in this case, I don't like to use have, but in a sense, we know that what we call the human, the physicality, the persona, and the game of life as the human is very integral part of our experience. And even in my own personal experiences, even though my soul is from another universe altogether, a parallel universe that has, already played out a lot of this, again, it can't be duplicated because each one's going to be different. And it was involved in the retooling of the planet 15,000 years ago and so forth, and has, chosen to come back here to kind of play a particular role in re-encoding and be part of the transition of going back to our natural state, because we've been kind of off our natural state, our true design, for 10,000 years. But even doing that, and the body going through certain modifications to be able to harness the capacities of what the soul wanted to do through it, it still had to embody a human, even in its modification. And, for a period of time in the entry, it was kind of challenging in a sense, because of the fact that when you're not used to having this type of physicality. And the thing is, it's not so much just the physicality itself, it was out of its natural state, meaning that, for the 10,000 years that humanity has been on the journey, has been living in this inverted world. It has had a lot of modification in its original design. So it actually lowered its capacities and frequencies. So now coming into something that you're coming from a universe that has not had those restrictions for a very long time, and, has been taken on forms of sorts that did not have those capacities and those limits, and then entering a limit point, it became very challenging. And there's many of us on the planet. When I say many of us, many souls that have come in as star seeds, have come in as indigos, have come in as crystals, has come in a lot, and also as souls, what like people call older souls and whatever else, and may have found it somewhat challenging to kind of embrace this human condition, human experience, and so forth, and to be able to play it in the way that we, are playing the game right now. Now, the beauty of this is all transforming at the same time. So in my own personal case, just to kind of bring our personal experience coming in, with the entry, I maintained a certain, and when I say it's not the Franco I'm referring to. I'm referring to more my multidimensional soul that was already united with this, what we can call twin soul, or the two matching numbers, before even having more merging that occurred over the years, which now resides with 96 different souls with 4 oversouls and whatever else, not all embodying the physicality, but all intimately connected. So in that entry point, the soul spent a certain amount of time within the womb to relate and kind of get tuned. So it basically used a lot of the input from my mother in how it felt to be in a human body. And it was very instrumental because my mother was also very fear-bound, or very emotionally challenged. And because of the family scenario, there was a lot of hostility, polarization, and so forth. And it did get a chance to kind of have that experience. And many of us have gone through that, or different experiences, but all of it have been learned. We may not be conscious of it. And some of us have cutoff points where I don't want to remember that far. But in my case, it was very live and stream. And of course, I had a twin brother at the time in the womb at the same time that was also holding the energy. And there was a soul involved that kind of had a communication to not to create so much a buffer, but kind of giving 2 different perspectives of how it was to be in the womb, how was it to be as the body was going through it. Now, of course, the souls would come and go, didn't spend whole 9 months in the womb, because that was not of serving, but it did spend time intermittently at different points to kind of do that and have an integration process, which many of us have had to do the same thing. We just may not have the recollection of it. And I know when it came into the entry point of birth, of course, my brother chose that he 2 weeks before the birth process decided not to participate in the role, which was all constructed. I wasn't aware of it at the time. It wasn't made that that aware. But at the same time, I came to that realization and said, okay, well, this is the way it needs to be. I know it left a bit of an imprint, which I had to deal some years later, because in the fact, Todd, it was like, why me? Why do I stay? And then my brother gets to go, right? Type of thing. Not that I saw him as an advantage. I saw it that I had the advantage and he didn't, right? But in the sense of saying, oh, he's leaving, and why am I the one who has to stay here? Type of thing. But that was more of the human component of it. But with the soul also did kind of support that to some degree, not in the sense of feeling the grief or anything like that. But I did have locked in human grief because of that, which I addressed like 20, 30 years later. It wasn't even...
Did you clear it then?
Yeah, I did. It did, because it did pop up. And this was like, I wasn't even 40 at the time. And it kept coming up because I was having this sadness and so forth. And I felt that intense, let's call it unfairness in a sense, because it's like, well, I'm here, he's not, right? Now, there's a whole other dynamic that really did not support that in the sense of making it that real, but the emotions and the programming in the body and so forth kind of stored that, even though, because my twin brother actually was showing up in a holographic form at certain periods of my life to keep me company of sort. And even my other brother that checked out, that was born 14 months after I was. And so they were there. So like for me to say, why am I missing them when they're still showing up in a sense, even though nobody else could see them, I could see them. And they communicated with me. And sometimes my mother was going like, who are you talking to? I'm talking to Mark, which was my twin, and Joe, right? And my mother's like, what do you mean? They're not here, right? They're not, they both died and they were, gone through whatever process that involves. But they were there. And then some years later, and get this, both of those souls that were my brothers at just before age 4 said they had to go take on other incarnations. So they weren't showing up anymore. And so I lost that connection. But then I can say one thing, both of them are in my life now. Yeah. Because my exact twin brother in my mother's womb is my daughter now, and then my brother that I lost a week after his birth, 14 months after I was born, is my son.
So is that the soul?
Their soul, okay. The multidimensional soul.
The multidimensional.
And the thing is, I recognize the signature and everything else, but at the same time, we didn't communicate. I didn't communicate it with them because I really felt that it was not something I needed to share with them. But then some years later, when my daughter was in her 7 or 8 years old or something like that in age, I don't remember exact age, but it was in that range, coming up to me and putting her hands on my face, and he looks me straight in the eyes and go, Dad, I'm your brother. Yeah. And I go, how do you remember that? Because I remember I was in the womb with you. I remember the fact that I used to visit you for a while. And then I said I had to go. And then she tells me this history that she took on when she left. The reason she left, she incarnated as a young girl. And she explained to me the whole experience that she died of cancer at age 18. And she was still in school at the time. And so she had that 18-year window of incarnation prior to becoming into my life back again, right? So she's explaining all this. This is a little kid, okay? We're not talking about, a grown-up sitting there and giving you the details. She's like, so that it was genuine, and there was no way to know it because I didn't even know that. I knew who she was as the soul, the multidimensional soul, because I recognized the imprint and the signature. But I didn't know the whole story. She gave me the whole story. And so that was that. And then some years later, my son was born. And so he was a little later. He didn't say anything, and I didn't say anything to him. And I recognized the signature because he was my other brother, okay, that also passed away. And then some years later, he was a little bit older. He was in his early, I don't know if he had reached his teens yet. I think 11, 12, somewhere around there. But he came up to me one day and he goes to me, Dad, I'm your brother, Joe. right? I go, okay, who told you about that, right? So I remember, and he kind of gives me the story, and he also incarnated. So he gave me kind of a little rundown of what what experience he had, and he had a kind of a rough experience coming in. But anyways, they're both my kids now, and they're involved. So that wouldn't have entailed a feeling of a loss, especially when first they were appearing, second they're in your life. Meanwhile, I still hadn't addressed that. And it was not until later that in some work I was doing in myself and looking at it, I had this grief and this so-called unfairness playing out in my life. And I go, I got to see what this is about. So I started doing connecting and so forth, and that came up. And it came up the fact that I had this sadness that my brother checked out and I lived. And I felt that was, as a human perspective, I left that was unfair. So I had to go through the process of clearing that out, which is kind of the stuff I've been teaching. Now, what I show now is a little bit more advanced and it's a lot quicker because the energies are very different. And it was different at that time. But just to give you an idea how we can all, adopt certain energies and memories and emotional charges, even when it's irrational in a sense because of the fact. But it becomes part of the human experience.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because so most of us have, events or people or whatever that it's clear. It's clear that it's been impressed upon our essence and I guess in our physicality, the trauma or the grief or whatever. But in your case, you had all the information,
right?
And it still became part of your.
Yes. So that's why we're sharing this, because we don't have to feel bad because we've maintained an impression within ourselves or something of that nature, because it does happen, and it's not something to bash ourselves about or anything of that nature. And it doesn't matter, say, well, if I was more advanced or I knew more or something of that nature, I wouldn't deal with that. No, it's not, because in my entry point, I was very aware of a lot of what I even talk about now. I just couldn't share it. I mean, I did share some of it here and there, which kind of had a lot of backlash involved, of course, because people couldn't handle that idea. It's like, how do you know these things? And especially when a lot of it somewhat contradicted the religious viewpoints that the family dynamics came through, because through the religious form, there was only God or Jesus or whatever else that could do or see this. But then the priests that were also involved in communicating with my mother specifically were also saying, oh, that could be Satan, because, Satan is a trickster and they'll give you information, but at the same time, or show you miracles, but at the same time, it's to deceive you. So then, this whole idea of being afraid that I could do this because it was normal, not normal. And so I had to also work through these processes of saying, okay, and going through a couple of exorcism,
Exorcism?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Well, they brought me to the priests and they were trying to get the demons out of me because they thought that, I was being played by Satan, which was a joke in a sense, because it was humorous watching them do whatever.
How old were you when that happened?
Oh man, how old was I? Like 5, 6, 7,
you
around
were
that. Twice. Once, they came to the house, 2 priests with the thing in. I mean, I don't disclose this too much, but I thought I'd throw it on the table.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then another time we went to the church, but this was my mother's thing, because nothing changed and there was nothing really wrong with me, but or what they assumed was, it's just I had this consciousness. Then of course my guide, kind of coached me and said, listen, you're going to have to find your delivery, or kind of fine tune your delivery. You can't just be open and say, hey, look, I'm seeing somebody that's dead, and that you touched somebody and it got healed, or what people call healed, shifted from whatever they were suffering. The fact that all this stuff, how could you know all of this stuff? So you can't just be that open. So that was kind of what came up. And so then I started to I created this buffer, and my buffer was, and I can't take the full credit because it was not the human, but the soul, and also my guide kind of helped me come up with this buffer. And the buffer was, instead of just being openly, blatantly talking about it and say, hey, by the way, such and such that passed away is right here, and it's telling me these details, and I'm sharing it with the loved one or something like that. So what I would say is, especially because they wanted me to say something, the ones that had passed on, so what I would say is that, oh, in my dream, this angel came to visit me and told me this. Now, they were okay with that because the angel said it, right? And I'm just relaying what. So it took the heat off me, and it became, okay, I can share some things. Now, when it came to higher consciousness, that had to be tainted because I would always say, oh, yes, in my dream, Jesus, Yeshua, showed up, even though he was kind of materializing in front of me all the time. But anyways, and said this. Even though it was coming from my own soul, but some of it was his input. So that's how I used it. Now, I didn't realize that, and I talked about it in one of your last shows, not the last one, the one before that, that I actually created a version of myself.
Oh, yeah.
And that version came at age 4 because at that point I had to really tune things down, and then it got beefed up at age 5 because of the fact that I went to school. And now you're in a Catholic school with all these kind of interesting, sisterhood type teachers and whatever else. And of course I'm vocal. Let's put it this way. If I see something, I just say, hey, that's not how it works. Or why do you say that? Or something of that nature, which kind of created a little. So I got familiar with what you call the ruler on your hand, the strap in those days, a few whacks here and there and across the legs. I would have never thought like that.
I would have never thought you went through that experience like
Yes, I did. But not to be, a defiant.
Yeah.
But that's what they saw because I was being open, and I questioned it, to some degree. How did you come up with that conclusion? Well, you can't even say that because this is the way it is, and that's it. And that was the upbringing. Now, one thing I wanted to back up a little bit, that was kind of building the stage there. In my entry point as a child, I was observing what was going on in the world. And I was observing, and I mean, we didn't have mainstream media. We didn't have any media. We didn't even own a TV. Okay. But just observing people.
Yeah. But just to be clear, your active consciousness, as you term it, included, a connection or 2 or 3 or several to infinite intelligence. So you're able to actually bring into your mind and from a human standpoint, be conscious and apply it.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, not only that my soul was streaming the information, I had my guide, Yeshua, that was actually part of it, but a lot of it was coming from my brother, sister souls that were what we can call beings or aliens or whatever you want to call it, right? Because they used to visit. Now, some of them were not so nice, okay? Some of them didn't want me on the playground we call Earth. Because I had some that were visiting, and they made it very clear, we don't want you here. This is our playground, and I know what you're coming here to do, and I know what vibration you're bringing, and you're going to upset what's here. We don't want you here. So they were kind of mean and pushed me downstairs and did stuff, trying to or suffocate me when certain species came along. But then I had some other species that were very much complimentary and supportive, So I had them both. I got to see both things. As a young person, because this started off as a kid. I didn't even go to school yet, because we're in the 3, 4, 5 years old age category. So that was a bit of a challenge. Then also watching people being abusive to each other. And I came through somewhat of an abusive, addicted family. And seeing abusive, and I just couldn't understand why people would be that way. Because to me, I understood love. I understood that we're all beautiful beings and we're sharing with it. And then I also noticed that, and this is the interesting part, Todd. I was very good at, this was kind of something natural for me, to look in people's eyes. And I'm looking in people's eyes, and to me, it looked like I was looking at others. I was looking at zombies making zombies. Mm. But it's almost like nobody was home. And I'm not saying that because they had no soul. In some cases, that was the case. But what I was looking at is that people were walking around, and there was no real active consciousness. I mean, mind you, this is in the 50s, the late 50s, and then going into your early 60s. There was no active consciousness. Now, that doesn't mean that was across the board, but the ones that I was seeing, and I'm going to myself, holy shit, I'm here way too early. Mm. Like, when is this going to change? I came here to do a role, and I'm supposed to hold the spiritual energy, and there's nothing receiving any of this. And I can't even communicate because I couldn't. I couldn't sit and talk to anybody. I had to use the buffer. The only conversation I could have was with my guide and sometimes with my beings, the beings that were actually supportive rather than trying to wipe me off the land, and sort of thing. So it was a very interesting time. So I had to really get rock solid, because with myself, with my own guidance system. So the intimacy, and when I say intimacy, the pure connection to my soul and any other connections I may have had was all I had. I did not have another human. So if somebody says, and I've heard this many times over the years that I've been working with people, I feel alone. Yeah, it may feel that way, but when you connect with yourself, you don't feel alone. Okay. And I felt alone. But that was the human part that said, I have nobody to talk to. Now, I had some friends, but guess the friends I connected with. It was not the hip kids or anybody else. I always connected with the rejects, what people call the rejects, the ones that were a little bit different, or may have had a disability or whatever. And they did not, other cool kids did not want to talk to them. And they were also picked on, right? I got picked on too. But, I maintained friendship with that because I felt that they were more open to a friendship, more open to less judgment, and stuff like that. So that's kind of the relationships I established with them. And, it was interesting because even my mother at one point in time, they go, how come your friends are always the ones that, are a little bit weird? I go, Mom, we're all weird, But the thing is, because my mother's famous phrase, and I would be clear, why can't you be normal? That's all she cared. Why can't you be normal? Why can't you be one of us, right? And I remember always saying to her, I go, if normal is what you're living and all these other people in my family are living, I want no part of normal. Forget this. I'm going to set my own normal, right? So that was kind of the experience of that. So now, Todd, and many of us, to see where we are now in the movement, and it doesn't matter of the massive polarity that we're experiencing. This is like freaking cool because there's movement, there's change, there's conscious people. We got to meet some really amazing people every day. And this is why we decided to stay a little longer, because we didn't want to lose, the connection, not only with yourself, but the people we met at the Soulogy Fest and some other people that have come across, because there's so many more people now that are understanding, seeing, and going through their journey of life. And I can share this. Look, people are listening to this. Now, maybe some of you might think I'm absolutely crazy, whatever, but it doesn't matter. The seeds are being planted and so forth. And other of you going, oh yeah, this is what I felt most of my life. Yeah, well, this is great because, we're reflecting, what you felt inside of you. I'm not here to teach you anything. I share stuff and you share through other people and your own personal experience, because we're all dancing together. We're all moving together, and we're reminding ourselves how powerful we are, how beautiful we are, how amazing we are, what we are here to do, and all of that great stuff. So yes, my journey was what it was, but everybody's had a very interesting journey of some sort. And you could say, well, I lived a privileged life. I'm not talking about myself, but anybody else, and say, but that doesn't mean that you did not in one way or another play an active, beneficial, powerful role for your advancements. And the reason you're where you are now is because you're you're ready to take up a more active role that is more consciously apparent for us, type of thing. So, yeah, the journey was with the journey. And then, of course, I know one of the things we talked about, Todd, was the fact that, with the connections we had and the skill sets, because we all bring certain skill sets. Look at the amazing people that are artists, creators, musicians, and are very advanced in technology and so forth. And I had that experience myself too, because as a kid and growing up and even in high school, a lot of the stuff that's coming to the surface now, I was already playing with. Yeah. To me, I looked at it, burning fossil fuels to run cars didn't make any sense, running jets and whatever else, and it totally made no sense. That we need to have generators to generate and then transmit. To me, it was like, I'm looking at, why are we running all these wires all over the countries and the world to transmit electricity? And it made no sense to me. And Tesla had it pretty right, because he wanted to use it through wireless methods. Now, the only thing is, and I'm sure he probably explored it, I'm not totally aware of it, but he wanted to transmit it wireless. And I could see that being beneficial for the vehicles and planes, whatever else that was there. But to receive energy for your house, you can create generators that would use no energy at all through magnetics, which I had designed and so forth, and was not totally new, because now a lot more people got on board. And of course, we have much more advanced, because this stuff that I was playing with, it was in the 70s. Okay. And I'm still in high school, right? So here we are creating magnetically run generators that required nothing. We were now producing hydrogen through ways of processing water, not the typical way of putting rods in, creating special discs with holes and so forth, and using frequency generator so that it used a minuscule amount of electricity to create tremendous amount of hydrogen, and then using that as a transition to operate already combustion engine cars, right? And then to be able to go to electric cars, because I had also played with electric motors that did not require charging batteries or extensive amount of batteries and so forth, which, we're using phase generators and so forth, where you were actually, because a motor is also a motor and a generator at the same time. You just have to pick up the opposite phase, right? And then refeed it back in, and you may have to store some, and sometimes you may have to charge, but the charging would be, once a month, maybe, if you had to. But a lot of times you didn't even have to do that. And the whole concept was not accelerating. We were using, the motors would start and run at one speed, and then use a gearing clutching system that actually used different ratios that would be connected to your throttle or your pedal, and that would actually change the speeds and so forth. There was a lot of things we experienced, and this was all in the 70s while I was still in high school. The same thing with what was I going to say? Oh, yes. Utilizing fuel more efficiently instead of atomizing gas or using carburetors at that time, because that's all there was. Fuel injection wasn't even barely introduced. There was hardly a few cars here and there that was using a crude fuel injection into the manifold. And what we were doing is actually, I found through experimenting, it's like, oh, okay, we're not doing this very efficient, because we don't burn all the fuel. We're only burning a small amount. That's why we create a lot of carbon monoxide. And now, of course, we use pumps to pump air into the exhaust and then run a catalytic converter. What does a catalytic converter do? It actually burns more of the gas, so it makes it less toxic, right? And I thought, and in those days, none of that existed, okay? They were raw, and the fumes were really intoxicating when you followed in a traffic jam, because you were using. So what I did is end up looking at it and say, okay, let's see what else we can do here. So instead of just dropping droplets of gas and mixing it with air and then sparking, we just started to heat the gasoline at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, and it turned into vapor. And then we would inject the vapor in, and the vapor would burn completely, creating no carbon monoxide, just carbon dioxide, and So you didn't have the toxic fume. And now all of a sudden, something that did only 20 miles per gallon could go up to 200 or 300, depending on how well it was distributed and so forth. And you would produce less heat that you had to get rid of through the engine, because that's what happens with fuel. And you're getting a clean combustion. So the oil lasted 10 times longer. The engines would not carbon up. You would not have all of the issues that you have. But again, that was only a transitional point, because eventually we were going to go. And also creating film, which was plates that you can put under vehicles. And I mean, the military uses it now, or has been using it for a long time, where you can hover over the magnetic field of the earth, so that there's no wheels. You don't even have to have smooth terrain. All of these things were, ended up designing it. We experimented, and so we had no backing resources, whatever. But I can tell you one thing: we had a lot of visitations and a lot of people that were pissed off that I was doing this stuff, because they didn't like the idea. They wanted to keep the oil industry going. They like to keep the tires and all of these other complex combustion engines and all of this stuff. Nobody was open to that. Now, of course, that's even advanced further, because I'm not saying it was total, because Tesla had his hand in it. There was other people. I'm not saying directly. I didn't ever work with him, but I'm saying what he was discovering and he was realizing and documented, it all got into the collective. More of us were picking it up. Whatever I was doing, and others all over the world that were doing at different times, experimenting. That's kind of the pool. And now a lot of people have done a lot of research, and that's going to start rolling out even more. Okay. And it doesn't have to be those technologies. It's even more advanced. I remember when I was doing the frequency generators, we didn't have solid states. We didn't have computer chips and stuff that, like we have in our computers. I remember years ago, I was talking. I had a little talk, and my daughter was there. And I had one of these electronic watches. It was one of the earlier fashions. And my daughter, I was just saying, and this was not that long ago. It was less than 20 years ago. And I said to my daughter, this watch has more computing power than those computers that they first came out at IBM that used to take up the whole room. That's how much more. And now look at what a phone can do. Look at what a computer can do. It's amazing how many things you can do. So now for us to roll that out, as soon as we create an opening for it, which people stop resisting it, and that's breaking down now anyways, we can do some amazing things, that we can have a very clean environment without having to restrict ourselves in any way, right? But anyways, that was kind of some of the things I shared along the way. Yes, I maintained a consciousness, but I can tell you one thing, and Todd, when you have access to higher consciousness and you still have to play the human game, and it's difficult. Don't think it's easy, because a lot of people say, oh, well, it might have been easy for you because you had access to it. And we didn't. We got lost in the game. Oh, well, no, I had to play the game too. And knowing that actually made it heavier, because look at it this way. Somebody says, this is the way it is. And that's not the way it is at all. This is how it is. But you can't say it, because bang, reaction and attack of sorts, right? So you kind of had to say, oh, yeah, well, that's a possibility. Yeah, that's how we see it right now, but it may not. There's more to that. Oh, no, that's it. And especially when you challenge science, and I always called it fictional science, because a lot of the science evolved, but it was never implemented in our thing. Especially when the teachers, I got some bad grades in some of my reports that were phenomenal, only because it said, oh, that doesn't fit the science, right? The whole idea that you need energy to create energy, that means you got to burn fossil fuels to have energy. I'm going, no, energy's everywhere. You could put 2 antennas with specific wiring of metals, and you can run a light bulb from the energy that's around you. There's no wires, there's no generators, nothing. Why? Because it's all around us, right? So the idea of thrive, they were talking about some years later, and I was like excited because I already knew that existed. a box that you can put in your house and you can run everything from it. It has nothing. There's not even moving parts. It's all picking up the energies from the field because we're all energy in the field. So, but is it not available? It is available, but it's not made publicly. But that's coming online. But then again, that's the same thing. I remember one of my experiments was, why do we have to burn fuel or use up electricity with coils to heat up water? Bash water around, meaning create an agitation to it, you create heat. You have a little motor running on DC with 2 discs that's beating water around, and you have steam, you have hot water. Cavitation, that's all it is, all right? And this was back in the 70s, right? But nobody was then, of course, some other people invented it and tried it out, but it's not out yet. You know why? Because we're still holding on to this thing. But all of that is breaking down. I'm not making the focus on all of this because on what was done and was not done. What I'm saying is that we all gone through stages where we knew different things and we were able to play with that. And we weren't ready to introduce it because you could say, well, we had the control structures. Well, nothing can be supported unless we support it. But we bought into the idea. We wanted to have that experience. But now we're saying, okay, we're done with that. We're moving forward. Yeah. And that's all that is.
Well,
go ahead.
Looking at a couple of these comments, I just want to go back to what you just said, because you're making it very clear that there's no one out to get us. And there was a couple of comments, which is fine, that, we're being suppressed or whatever. But this is actually our decision. Everything we've pretty much, yeah, it's our decision or we've consented, or however you want to put it. We haven't made up our mind what, it's a responsibility within ourselves.
Correct. And the thing is, and I want to make a point. I'm glad you brought that up, and whoever asked the question. The thing is, the restrictions and the suppression and so forth. Okay. It may be prevalent in the collective because we're kind of supporting that in a sense, because we say we're ready, then when in some way we're not. So we say, oh, well, I prefer the suppression temporarily. We're still been supporting that. But the thing is, you're right. Each one of us can choose how much it affects us or it becomes part of our experience. Meaning, if I believe that the suppression, then the suppression is going to show up. Okay. Now, there's another part to that. The other part is many of us wanted to understand what other people are going through and what the collective has to offer. And you say, okay, I'm open to receive the suppression, to experience from it, to learn from it, to see what others on a collective that have given that agreement are going through, and maybe but put a focus on how we can transition from that, right? You're right. We're all the ones that choose, is that going to play a role on me or not? Now, in some cases, you say, well, I can't change the system too much because then I will lose touch of it, but I'm going to find alternative because it's fun to find an alternative, another way to do it. And then eventually all of that phases.
But and another way to put it, I think, is like from a soul perspective, the soul that chose to come down here, because you hear a lot of people say, as an empath, I feel the collective's pain.
Right.
I feel their sadness. But what you're actually saying, something we actually came here to experience on a personal level, so we could gain the code and the opportunity and the motivation to make a change and other things. Is that right?
Yes. So if we're in tune, a lot of things, what happens with empath, because I have that kind of going on with myself too, but I had to learn from it too. In the sense of there's to be an empath where everything affects you, like you can feel things. I feel every wave of energy comes in. I feel whoever's in the presence, where they're at or not, I can feel it. And at first, if you have the collect, like with Kimberly, if any little energy shifts in her because of something that's playing out with her, I feel it. And I go, okay, what's up? Oh, nothing. Well, but then, But this we feel with everybody, right? We all have to a certain degree. Now, where the thing is you feel, where we label it as pain, is because we have now applied a meaning to it. And we've all done it. I've done it too. But now what's changed is I can feel the person's energy or whatever's going on with them as the impact. And then I say, oh, okay, they're going through whatever they need to go. If I can be of service, I'll be of service. If not, just go, because this is your process. It's not something I have to interfere with or change. You can feel the pain of the earth. You can feel and see what's going on in the thing. But when you have a deeper understanding, you bring that to the forefront. You're going to say, oh, this is perfect, because people are being pushed. People are having triggers. People are seeing their own programs, their polarities and so forth, because they have chosen to grow. They have chosen to advance. And that's it. So the empath, if it's not about feeling what's going on and then being crushed by it. It's about learning from it and see how I can adjust that frequency so that I can now mirror back or reflect back or project. And I'm not talking about the projection that people talk about. I'm talking about transmit, put into that field a deeper understanding, rather than feeling sorry for people or feeling that they're going through pain or anything like that. When you see it with love, you're now saying, okay, because when you see somebody going through an experience and you see them with love and gratitude for whatever they're going through, you're now triggering with them, in them, their own empowerment. But if you see them as going through a rough time and you feel bad for them, you tend to empower more the victims. You empower the disempowered.
It's a very good point.
So to be of service, because sometimes people say, well, you know, we got to take the pain away from people. It's not that. You may share some higher perspective about certain things for them, but never see them as bad, because they're never the victim. Nobody's ever the victim. We can play the game, absolutely. We can get lost in the game of the victimhood, but that's not true. So the moment I see Todd, anybody in the world, and I see it in family going through whatever they're going through, I see them empowered. I see them with love. And I see them, they're going through all of this stuff, but what is the outcome of that is profound for them. And how many of us have woken up, gone through shifts, gone through intensities, through what people call pain, through being on the street, through being in an abusive relationship or whatever, you know, or even having, you know, emotional whatever of trauma through childhood or whatever it is. That becomes a catalyst. Does it have to be that way? No. But the thing is, because of the game and the choice we made in the entry, you don't make a mistake, but you go in there, hey, you don't want to play. For example, let me give you something here. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you or not. I know I don't make it public, but you guys turn off the sound. You don't want to hear this.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowing that the way you play the game of life, saying, okay, I'm not going to get lost in the human game, right? Some years later, like I'm in my late 20s now, and I had a good understanding by observing people. But here comes my guide. And he goes, hey, listen, you don't understand it 100%. And for you to be the most effective and to be able to encode, to do the job you came here to do, you now have to look through the eyes of 1,000 people, and you have a 10-year window to do it. That means you're going to see through the eyes of male, female, age, race, whatever they're going through. If they're rich, poor, on the street, doesn't matter. You are to embody, temporarily, be able to see through their eyes and to look at their program, because you would almost step into them, not violating, always asking permission, and they're usually open for that, and to be able to see it. That took a 10-year span for me, and it was just over 1,000 people of all races, of all parts of the world, to be able to see. And it gave me a really broad perspective of what the human experience was and why people make certain decisions, why people feel a certain way, what program is involved, what the culture has conditioned them to be, and why being in one gender or another gender or age group or anything of that nature, how that is effective and playful. And it gave me a really broad expanded. The other thing is, my guide at that time earlier said, don't deny the human experience. You need to fully embody it. Okay. Yeah. I'm going, hey, wait a minute. You know, I'm an alien. Okay. You want me to embrace that? I find weakness in humans. He goes, no. When you find the power in the human, then you understand the human. And that took me a while to fully get it much more ingrained, because of the fact that I saw that they were heavily operated by programs and emotional charges and whatever else. And I go, I don't want to go in that dance. I don't want to get into that whirlwind of experiences. But then I missed out a lot of things if I didn't do that. So now, I'm not saying that this makes it more superior, but that was the job I did. And many of us, this is why you're in certain relationships. This is why you move from relationship to relationship. You're moving through family. You carry a certain lineage, which doesn't have to define you, but in one way or another is actually giving you the opportunity to get a deeper understanding. All of us have come here and say, well, I just want to walk on water. And I want to do that. No, you came on the planet saying, okay, I want to understand the human experience. I want to go through the ride of it. I want to go through whatever's involved. And then later on, be part of the transformation that we're going. So when we're looking at the history of our lives from birth to where we are now, you're going to look, wow, what a ride. What a cool ride. I got to experience things that was not even possible in any way. Because as an observer, you cannot experience it until you're in it and you're really feeling every component of it, you know, and that's the beauty of it. If you didn't want to have that experience, you would have said, you know, I'll come much later, or I won't come at all, because there's a lot of other planets and a lot of physicalities that do not have any of this stuff going on. They may have different things, but much more tuned down. But you came here for a very powerful purpose and say, yeah, I want in. And I want to play, and I want to experience. I want to get lost. I want to be in the massive polarities. I want to forget who I am. I want to feel the separation and then bring it all back, but experientially rich, though, in comparison.
Yeah, you know, this is another good point, because I have a charge, and my charge is that I get sick and tired of hearing people in these communities talk about everybody that's not awake or that are stupid or whatever. And I really feel like that what you just said is important, because, you know, I told you in the last week, and I was telling Morgan last night, I got this thing in that said, if unity consciousness is not looking at the world through your own eyes, it's looking at the world through everyone's eyes. Mm-hmm. And so I just thought, wow, that's so simple. And when and I have to work on the charge I get from, and it's not really a bad one, but it's there. That means there's misalignment, and I admit that. But it's like I would tell people, I don't believe anyone's a sheep. I don't believe anyone's asleep. Mm-hmm. I think we're all beating at the same vibration. Just doesn't look that way. But how do we, you know? And I think what you said is, even though it was a anecdote from your life, it's still an energetic explanation and living example of something that we all can do. So I would imagine when you stepped into a 1,000+ people's perspective and therefore were able to access their programming or see it, that it must have had a continuous aligning effect on you.
Oh yes, and humbling and really seeing exactly how the game, what people go through, right? And having a real deep appreciation, but also, and you know, the thing is, I to be honest with you, I felt more love for everyone that was brave enough to come and play here. You know, it was like, wow, you know, you took on this role, you took on, you know, those intensities. I mean, I was like, humbled, and at the same time, I felt this profound love to be able to see it. Even in third world countries, to enter there in starvation and having all types of different things and abuse, whatever it was there at that point, and going, wow, here's this beautiful multidimensional soul, here's this beautiful human entity, here's this beautiful body, and subjecting itself to go through that. But then when you see it from the perspective of a bigger perspective, Todd, and all of us at this point, you see it as what it is. It's a game. It's something that goes in there, and there's such realism. There's such sensorially accentuated experiences and so forth. But then you have such a love. Because the other thing you can see through that, all of us have had multiple different experiences on different playgrounds. And some of us, a good chunk of us, have come on planet Earth many times through the last 15,000 years, and some of them has concentrated more in the 10,000 year period where all of this was very intensified. And so you got to play roles on all different sides and got to experience different things. And that enriched us. And it doesn't only enrich us personally, enriches us collectively, but it enriches the whole chain, going through oversouls, going into sourceness and all of that. Because as source, when you see yourself as source, and again, there's a purpose why we don't always see ourselves as source, because it demises. It takes away. It's not demise. It takes away the level of intensity of the experience, because now it becomes, it's just a game, and that's great to have. But at the same time, people talk about going into pure oneness or sourceness, and I've had the experience. You lose yourself. There's no more you. You are everything, and there's nothing at the same time. And then you go, okay, this is cool for a few seconds. Yeah. But I want to go out and play. I want to go have a physical form. I want to go do whatever, and I want to go play on whatever playground. And that's what we all do. But we kind of forget that when we get here because we get lost in the game. But the thing is, now it's not about remembering who we are and going to that and saying that's heaven and this is hell or whatever. It's no, I'm going to bring more of my memory into play so I can play the game in an upgraded version. And then when I'm done with this game, I can go somewhere else. But the beauty of it, and we've talked about it, and even with our gathering last night, is that the souls, when they leave, especially if they've gone through a lot of intensities, the multidimensional souls, and look back and go, holy shit, I just lost out on what I was playing there. That wasn't all that bad. In fact, that was pretty cool. And because there's a whole different perspective now, and they're not lost in the ego mind or lost in the polarization, because it's the ego that actually can accentuate the polarity and the right, wrong, good, bad, and all of that, and the separation part. But without that as a component, then you have a whole different appreciation. Now, do we have to demonize the ego? No, it served, and it's still serving us through this transition, but it's also coming out of service. It's not really a requirement anymore. And that's what we're realizing. It's not about demonizing anything, because everything is so beautiful in the expression and play.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's being decommissioned.
Yeah, it's decommissioned. It's
and just going back to that too. Well, even in your own case, and you don't have to get into the story because I know it's part of a bigger story, but you actually, like some of us, have had out of body, near death. Mm-hmm. You had one in particular where you actually felt, or you actually were shown how much you actually had achieved up to that point in your life, but going into that conversation with your guide prior to it, you didn't have that same opinion.
No, exactly. You're right. And that's a good point to bring up. I think we did some heavy duty disclosure since we've been together here about my life.
What are you in here or before?
No, our conversations and so forth that we've had. We talked a lot of things that we never talked about ever. Us, anyways. No. and I don't make it that public. But okay, so for people that don't know, I've had 5 near-death experiences and then 1 complete death experience where I actually died for over an hour. And so
this is over. I mean, in proportion to your life, this is over just not a real long period of time.
No. The very first one was January 1st, 2004.
Wow.
It was on New Year's Day. That was the very first one. That was the near death. That was very pinnacle for me. It shifted a lot of things in my life, redirected my life. I let go of the engineering world and started to focus this 100% rather than. So I did. That started the chain of event of transition, and then I did not stop doing the engineering work because there was a transitional period until April of 2005, which took a little over a year to wrap up. But yeah, so that was the very first one. But the one that the next one that happened which was a full blown one where you died for over an hour. That was in February 15, 2016. And it was just a crossover point from Valentine's Day to the next day. So yes, and then through the death process, I've had many out of body experiences, not near death experiences. They're different. They're very different. Let me explain something really quickly. A near death experience is when your body stops functioning. You see yourself leaving the body, and you have your energy body, you have your soul, all of this part, and you're watching your body there that is lifeless. But you don't leave fully. You may have a very short trip, or you're watching what was going on. In this case, and the first one and the other ones on suit, I never left fully. I'm outside of it, or I'm floating around doing whatever. But while other people are trying to revive the body or do whatever it's required at that point in time to get it back functional again, right? But the full-blown one was okay. We're there. This time I left the body completely. In fact, I flew into kind of space type of thing, and I ended up in this huge 300-foot bubble floating there. And then my guide shows up, and I remember the words he said to me right at the beginning. And he goes like, "Why are you here?" And I'm going, "I don't know why I'm here." And at the same time, where am I? Because I have no idea what this is. Like, I'm looking around. This is a big bubble in space here, and I'm floating in the middle. There's nothing under my feet, And now the body that I was also had was very similar, but it was more of a light body sort of thing because it didn't have the same density. But the one thing I remember, through the departure part, through the process leading to what we call the death process, there was extreme amount of pain and discomfort. While I was in there, it was like I felt nothing. And I said, "This is pretty cool," right? So anyways, my guy says, "Why are you here?" And I go, "I don't know where you're here." And he goes, "You're dead. You died." I go, "I kind of suspected that. That was a very different experience altogether." So I said, "Okay, so what happens here?" And he goes, "Well, we're going to do a review." I go, "Oh, pretty cool. All right, let's do the review." Now, he asked me one of the things, and he said to me, "How do you feel about your journey? Here you've been on the planet like 58 years or something like that. How do you feel your journey was?" And I go, "Well, definitely I didn't do what I came here to do. I did very minimal amount." And he goes, "Oh, okay, well, let's take a look at that." Right? So anyways, just behind him, there was no screen, but what seemed like a screen. It wasn't a screen, but this scene. And he started showing me from birth all the way to that point. And along the way, he showed me all the things I was doing behind the scenes and present, right, in what we call form. And the ripple effects that was happening. How many people it was touching, what was changing, what was going on, what was changing on a collective, what energies were moving. And he's showing me all of these things, and he's going, "Do you see this? Do you see that?" And I'm going, holy shit, all of that happened? I wasn't aware of it. Like I'm going, I'm not impacting that many people. I'm not doing what I imagined I was going to do from the human perspective. And I didn't realize how many ripple effects it created, dominoes, you name it, through many exchanges. I go, wow, okay, well, I guess something was wrong. I did something. I did something pretty valuable. And then after all of that, I'm not going to go through all the details. He goes to me, well, what do you want to do? I said, what do you mean? He says, well, you have a contract to 2077. You can end it now. Okay, you still have like 62 years to go. Or, you can go back. I go, going back, eh? Does that mean I have to go back to the same dysfunctional physicality? And said, well, that can be somewhat taken care of or whatever. I'm applying some words here because I don't remember the exact. I mean, everything I'm saying is exactly the communication, but the words may be slightly different. But it's the same meaning and same everything. So I said, well, under one condition. That was the actual words I said. Under one condition, that the body is not going to be as compromised. And then at the same time, I looked at, okay, well, yeah, I have a contract, and the contract is, and I'm seeing that there's a certain level of excitement, things are moving. So I didn't finish my work. So I don't want to be the guy that kind of, stayed here and now left, didn't finish my job. So I want to finish that. Kimberly was in my life, and we had certain circumstances set up, and I didn't want her leaving into that. And then there was a tethering, which I'm not going to mention the name because I didn't ask for permission to share it. I was tethered to somebody else that is also playing a particular role on the planet, and say, well, my departure will bring that one along, and I don't want to be responsible for that one. Okay, so, and I won't get into the final details of that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I'll go back. And so after a little bit of a wrap up, and there were some other details I'm not going to go into because I didn't ask for permission for that because it involves somebody else that was also in that bubble that showed up at the time. And that I was tethered with at the time. And that was a temporary agreement because we were kind of at a position where both of us had the option to leave. But anyways, when I returned, it was a real eye-opening, painful experience to come in, but it did shift things very dramatically. But my point is, a lot of us do not realize, and I'm one of them, did not realize that everything that you do, every thought you have, every action, every engagement, every energy, stream of energy that moves through you and so forth is impacting in a very powerful way. Even when you can't put your finger on it and say, oh, I did this, I reached 1,000 people or 1,000,000 people or a billion people or something of that nature. I didn't do anything. I'm just, living a normal life. Well, we're all doing something. It's not like you're not doing anything. Yeah, maybe your ego mind's going to say, yeah, I don't deserve it. I didn't do anything. I'm worthless or whatever. That's just a construct. It's just an operating program to throw you off track. And I had some of that playing out in my own experience too, because the ego program that I had to have as part of my experience. I remember my guide calling it as a simulated ego. But it had a pretty good grip on me at times. Now, it didn't project, like I didn't project to people say, you're an asshole, whatever it is, or like what a lot of people say. It was none of that. It was more, we have a projected ego and an internal ego. Mm-hmm. And my internal ego was, oh, you're not doing that great. Look at this, whatever. It was always targeting me. It didn't target other people. It always saw other people. It didn't engage with that. It was more self. And some of us have both. Some of us have that where that dialogue is, oh, you're not doing it right, whatever else, right? Now, did I give it always a lot of power? No, but other times it grabbed me by the shorts. Sometimes it did have that intensity to get me and kind of get me for a little ride. But, it was a very interesting. Yeah, so the thing is, you're very right. A lot of times, and look at your life and other lives. You've impacted so many people. And sometimes what does your ego mind say? Oh, what are you doing? I'm interviewing some people. I'm talking to some people. I did the Solar Fest, and there was other people that came, Soulogy Fest, and other people came along. Well, you're very instrumental in all of that. And your journey of life that you shared, of where you went through, prepared you Does it make you less? No. Does it make you more? No, but very experienced. We're all equal. We all have different experiences, different opportunities, different ways of impacting this beautiful dance that we're doing. And I love you, brother, for everything that you went through and did and so forth, as I love everyone that's doing it. And whatever we're doing, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that we have to live a certain way to say we're more, we earned it or not. That's a construct too. It's not real. It's all fake. So the ego loves that one. You don't deserve it, this and that, whatever it is. But anyway, I think I shared a lot there.
That was good. Well, there's some kind of in talking to you, I got a lot of code in these 2 nights that weren't from the spoken words. It was from the story. Mm-hmm. And then from the story, you kind of put 2 and 2 together because there's certain things that are, not alluded, but that are just givens, because these things coming out of your journey in your story, for them to be possible, certain things would have to be in play. And a lot of this stuff is coming into our consciousness. So one of them would be like, and I'm a big believer, and I've mentioned it several times. I intend to be physically teleporting naturally and whenever I want to. Many other supernatural abilities that we call supernatural from a human level, higher skills and abilities and so on. But like, for instance, your contract is through 2077. Mm-hmm. Like when I heard that, my multidimensional oversoul group went, yeah, you were right. You are going to grow younger. Just keep believing it, because if you don't, it's not going to happen, basically. But so things like that. I mean, I asked you before, and I asked other people that have been doing this a long, long time. Wow, you must really be excited to be at this point now. Now you're in a situation from the physicality that it makes no sense that you should be believing that you're going to be here till 2077 and other things. Mm-hmm. But you do.
Well, yeah, and it's a knowing. But the thing is too, and I'm glad you brought that up. We got conditioned, programmed, and we adopted the belief and idea that we have to be ill, that we need to age, we need to deteriorate, that we only have a certain lifespan, that some virus is going to kill us, or some ailment or something of that nature. And yeah, we've all agreed to some degree or another to have those particular experiences and whatever else. But the thing is, that's not our natural operating system. Our body, our innate consciousness of our body, the energies that we bring in, and the understanding of what the human entity has to offer, and what we bring in as our multidimensional soul, does not. And our operating system, our very operating system, does not support that idea. It was just the idea, like you said. We believe it. We watch other people age. We watch other people getting sick. We watch other people going through it. And we buy into the idea that there's something that's out to get you, whatever it is. And then we present that experience within ourselves, and we follow suit. So now, with all this shifting that's going on in all of us, the renewed code, the codes that are being reactivated and the new ones that are coming in are bringing us back online, because when we originally entered this platform 15,000 years ago and the bodies were tuned, like 2,000 years was not unheard of. 1,000 was a minimum, and you had perfect health throughout. I mean, I know some of the writings of years and years ago, reflected that people were living 800, 1,000 plus, having babies at 800 plus, right? Okay. So in essence, that is not a fairy tale, and it's not something that, was then and not now. That was something that was implanted, and what happened, there's another part of this. Okay. I don't want to get too deep into it, but we already jumped into the rabbit hole. So
good.
Let's dive into it. Okay. So the thing is, one of the reasons that we got programmed. That's one thing. Feeling that, we have a short window of lifespan and then we have to leave. Because it was one part of the facets that we wanted to experience, that, you couldn't get stagnated too long. The other reason is the interest to stay in one particular body for a longer period of time was not so appealing. Because when people got into the game, they get lost in the game. And in the game, they make very minimal movement. They all buy in that life is small, it's survival, it's struggle, and that you have to earn yourself to move forward in one way or another. So look at it this way. How many of us, and I'm not saying that that's totally rock solid now because it's been expanding, but how many of us get tired of life because you don't get to experience it to our terms? You don't get to play on all different levels. You see that, I got to put in my time. I have to be conditioned, and I got to go to school. Then I got to play this role. Then I got to earn my life. Then I got to hold my status. And then I get this and I get that. And then I have responsibility for people, responsibility for others, whatever, right? And we see our life really small. And the variety, and even the pulse, the passion that we had in ourselves to live life dwindles. And then you go, I'm just going to push it the next few days or next few years, and then I'll just go, right? But when life is moving, when you're experiencing life, not from survival, but flourishing, playfulness, and using your imagination and seeing an endless level of possibilities, who the hell's going to be interested in going in and out? You're not. You go, I want to be here every step of the way. Who wants to come back in through the diaper stage? Who wants to come back to being the little baby again? There might be that occasion to say, well, I want to do that because I've never done it or something. But when you're here, it's like, no, that was cool. But hey, I want to have what I'm having now and more. I want to really experiment. And this is why there's a sense of passion and excitement with people right now. The people, especially, that can see that we are now stepping into a way where we can be more of our expression, where we can really play much more freely. We can change all of those restrictions and dissolve it and make things fluid, make things more advanced, right? Why? Because we are finally stepping up and saying, hey, we're not going to play the small life anymore. And we're bringing this beautiful, big, expanded life. And that's the thing. So guess what's going to happen with the timeline? What's going to happen? Well, our own personal life. Hey, I don't want to end at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 500, 1,000. Hey, man, if I can push this, and I'm not going to buy into the thing I have to age, wrinkles, or, feeling weak and walk around with those walker thingies or whatever you want to call it. No. I want to be skydiving. I want to be flying and stuff like that. Do whatever. And be with people. I thank you. I celebrate you for bringing the Soulogy Fest together. Why? Because I haven't been around a group of conscious, open, playful, advancing people that really, everybody's got their stuff that they're still working through. But to be able to do that in person in a long time, because of all of this other stuff that's been going on, everything's been done online. And to be able to do that. So imagine the freedom where we're not locked into anything and we're able to travel, to be able to experience one another, to be able to not be owned or controlled or say, oh, there's a border, you can't go there, and you're not to have papers and you can only be there a few months, or you have to have a reason why you go there. Imagine no borders. Imagine having no restriction, no ties, and living life. That's our natural state, and that's what we're doing. So that gets exciting. Yeah. And people want to participate with that. I know I'm in for that. I'm sure you are too. And all of us on online and say, shit, let's do this. Let's do this. And we're doing it. We're doing it. We're unraveling everything. This is why we're looking at the polarities. We're looking at the insanities for us to come to the realization, yeah, and you know that game, as cool as it was, we're done with this. We're not playing here anymore. We're done. That's unwrap it. And while we're unwrapping, we're going to purge out all of these definitions, stories, programs, conditions, labels, and anything else we've applied about ourselves and about the world so that we can play more freely. We don't want to carry the old baggage. History, the history is just an old memory, and it's not to be labeled. It was always just to take the beautiful experience and drop the rest. Mm-hmm. The animal kingdom did not look at their lives and say, oh, what did I do the last 5 years? Man, I had a dog's life. Man, it was restricted, whatever. No, it wants to have fun. It wants to do it. Yes, a lot of it gets mimicked to replicate what the human is going through, because that's kind of the deal they made with us. But in essence, the animal kingdom in the wilderness, yeah, they're playing whatever they're playing, and they're not in a natural state, but they are going into their natural state. But at the same time, they're not worried about their life. They're living moment by moment. They're living with whatever potentialities. But that's even still limited to what we have capacities. I'm not saying that we're better than the animals. No, they are going to achieve that freedom even further also, because they've been holding a certain space for us to learn and grow and whatever else. This whole thing about food chain and whatever else, that never existed. That was all stuff that was applied. So this is the beautiful part of it.
Mm. So we probably got like 20 minutes. So last night you took us through a process, and you've actually, you did it at the Soulogy Fest as well, and you incorporate that into some of your advancing consciousness series. Mm-hmm. And so as I went through it last night, I listened to the words and received the feeling that we had created together with our friends. But I just thought that maybe if you could explain what you're doing and why when you do this type of process. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of affirmations. I tend to work myself on almost like a speed, like a fast track kind of thing, which I know sometimes I leave things behind, and I've worked on that. And I don't know if a lot of other people are like that, but I have a feeling that I'm not alone, because we've been conditioned in a push button society, and you push something. But one of the things I have learned in 10 years is when the situation occurs, which can be a download or a channeling or what I might call divine episode with apparitions and such, it was very foreign to me, and I didn't always have the staying power. So I noticed when you do the process, you don't get in a rush, you cover all the bases, and it looks like you've been doing it a long, long time. So can you kind of take us through that? And if you want to take us through a process, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, hopefully we have enough time to do it.
Well, we can go 31 minutes. I mean,
okay.
Should be here, but we're fine. Yeah.
All right. So what the processes are about, they're not affirmation, they're actual statements, but the statements are trigger statements.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, you go ahead. They're trigger statements. And what the trigger statements actually do is actually turn on your own knowing that you may have put dormant for a period of time. So the statements actually activate you. Now, the statements itself has several things that go on with that. It's not only the words, because we do, of course, recognize the words and it brings back a memory, but there's a certain vibration of tone as the words are being said in a specific way that actually turn on some of the codes that you may have already been receiving and also have had in a dormant state. While that process is going on, we're also harnessing energies that are conducive and supporting for us to fast track or to align us or anything of that nature. So I found it very beneficial because for a lot of us, information is great and anything we share are there to trigger your own knowing and memory. But when we do a process, it bypasses that in a sense. It actually goes deeper. And not only is just the words, it's also the energies behind it, and it also entails turning on encodes and whatever else within yourself. So all of it, that's the thing. When I do things of that nature, through workshops or through some of the advancing consciousness, or whenever I get to play with beautiful souls like we did on the Soulogy Fest. And I'm saying right now, there's going to be more, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know there's going to be even more excited people to attend, of course, as we go along. And then a lot of this other stuff that we found as burden or restrictive is going to open for us. So we're going to be saying, hey, we're going to do it anyways. I'm not saying that's the only exclusive thing, but that's one facet that, brings a lot of soul. And then if Todd's still talking to me after today, he might even invite me to be there again. But I'm only teasing.
You are Soulogy.
I love my brother.
Kimberly are Soulogy.
So anyways, that's what the process is about. It does help you, but it's really not me helping you. It's you helping yourselves. So what's coming through is my soul's using all the energies and whatever else and encoding, and really it's bringing you up, because you're the only one that can shift, and you're the only one that can bring yourself online and be active and do very powerful things on this planet, because you're all ready to do so. Now,
I was over there getting some water, but you were saying that because I was actually studying you while I was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you said, I think what you said was, so really, I guess in a nutshell, when you're obviously doing this very consciously, you're also, it seems like you're doing it through information that you've gained and understanding that you've gained.
Or it's just moving through a lifetime. What do you call it? Current time? No, there's another word for that. Anyways,
but I mean,
it's whatever's needed right at that time for the people that are there.
Okay, I got
so
you.
it's
real time.
It's real time. Thank you. That's
and so but when you're doing it, because I can kind of relate to it. I think Jade could probably relate to it. Ty could relate to it. So it just seemed, you mentioned the word resonance or tonality or something to that effect, but it seems like that there's more than just words coming out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So there's actually like what poets call phrasing. There's sequence. So
it's a combination. It's the sequence. You're right.
Yeah.
And like you said, you explained it yesterday. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but while we were doing it, you were feeling like electricity moving through you, and I feel that all the time because the energy is moving through me, and other people will have exactly the experience they need. But like you said, real time, it does come real time, exactly what people need right at that moment. Yeah. But there's much more. It's not just, that's why when you said what do you call it, affirmations and things like that, it's not. It's actual impactful statements, and the way they're constructed one after the other. And in a certain sequence, it's like a combination. You're dialing a combination to turn the individuals that are being exposed to it and so forth. So, and I like it when other people also put in music and they use certain instruments and so forth. That is also code activation too, like what Ty and Jade do. And others that are involved, because sometimes they have other people, and we had that on Monday, wasn't it, or something like that? What day was it? Thursday. Sorry, last Thursday, and I'm glad I extended it. Yeah, not even close. I'm glad we extended it.
So do you want to take us through one? It's 30 minutes or 26 minutes enough?
Okay.
Or would you feel like
we can do just a short compressed version of it? Well, I don't do anything compressed, but I can do a short
if she comes to the door, just answer the door. We'll be all right.
Okay. Yes, we have. I guess you're doing another interview after this. So
no, we're going to do some work together.
Oh, work together. Okay, no problem. All right. So what I would suggest right now is make yourself comfortable. I'm going to sit back here because, see, I'm involved in it too. So I'm having the experience myself also because it moves through me. So if you can, and you're not doing anything that requires your attention, including driving or anything of that nature, then what I would strongly suggest, don't close your eyes and don't do it. But if you are in one way or another, do you need to pause for a second?
No.
No? Okay.
She here?
It was weird. It was knocking on the door, wasn't it?
Yes.
Is that some of your friends, Franco?
Oh, somebody left you a gift.
What is that?
Okay.
Food.
Food?
Did you order it? Todd Medina.
All right. He's loved.
Oh, I know who this is. Renee Ariel. Go grab her. Go
Oh.
grab her. Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Anyways, so if you're not doing anything that requires your attention and keeping your eyes open, then if you can, close your eyes and so forth, and just make yourself comfortable. You don't have to lie down or anything super comfortable because it's going to be a shorter process. But what I'd like you to do is just take your attention away from everything that's around you and to be able to be immersed in not only the words that you're going to hear, but also the energies that are going to come through. So if you can participate right now, live time. If not, you can always watch the recording afterwards. It'll be also locked in. So close your eyes, and we're just going to be relaxed and just allow yourself to feel relaxed. You can put your attention on the breath, but also pay attention to my voice, because my voice will guide you, and my voice also carries a certain tone and energy that will assist you in bringing you to the perfect state that was going to allow you, or you're going to allow yourself really, to be able to have a powerful experience within yourself. And all experiences that you will have will be exactly what you need in its perfect timing. Anything that you're not ready to experience right now will be encoded in you and will be automatically activated as you're ready. So this is the beauty of it. And even if you listen to this much later, it will still serve you in one way or another. So let's put our attention on the breath and just allow ourselves to be in that beautiful movement of breath. The breath is tuning us to be part of the rhythm of life. Each breath that you take in, feeling yourself expanding, is also bringing in to you the opportunity to ingest, to bring forth in your life whatever experiences that serve you. Each breath is loaded with exactly what you need, which reflects to you your life. You create experiences in your life to serve you, to provide you exactly what you need to advance you forward through an enriched experience, through an opportunity to discover yourself, an opportunity to create a shift. You're the one that knows exactly how it's going to serve you. Each time you exhale, you are releasing. You are breathing out your frequency, your energy, and you're also letting go into the field around you what no longer serves you. The breath is the reminder that life is about flow. The breath also tunes you with fluidity of life. Life is to be experienced and moved forward. You do not take a breath and hold it indefinitely. We don't create an experience in our life and hold it indefinitely. Yes, we have believed that we needed to, but that is not the case. We exhale once we've used the breath. We let go. We free our experience once we're finished with it. This way, every breath enriches us. Every exhalation unloads us, frees us. Every creation that we make in our life enhances us. And once we are done with that experience, we free it, we let it go. Ready to take a new breath, to create something brand new. Each new creation advances us. We are not here to repeat creation. We are here to expand creation, to tap into variety, to tap into potentiality. Each new creation advances us, giving us the opportunity to create something even more advanced next time around. We are not stagnant. We are fluid. We're expansive. That's our true nature. And to facilitate us right now, to remind us, to encode us, to expand us, we're calling in our full multidimensional soul to embody fully, to be part of this process completely, and to align with every facet of you. Your brain, which is the powerful computer, your overall conscious, we call the mind. Our beautiful multidimensional soul expressing itself and aligning with your human entity, your innate physical representation, expression, and extension of Gaia. To activate within itself its purest, highest vibrational home frequency gained from multidimensional incarnations, multidimensional playgrounds, and experience. To the fullest degree that you can embody in this physicality to be expressed through all facets of you right now, including your energy body, your light body, your multidimensional aspect of yourself that influences your multidimensional, multi-parallel world view and expression of you. Since we are the field, we are within the field of source. We are the spirit, which is source in creation. We activate to the fullest degree your sourceness, your spiritness, your capacity of that sourceness within you right now, through your overall consciousness, your soul, your human entity and body, fully aligned, fully activated, fully stimulating and turning on new codes and so forth. Activating your true nature in the purest form, pure love, the view of sourceness while embodying a physicality through all of your experiences. Pure love, highest vibration in existence, the highest creation capacity in existence. Activating, infusing your whole human experience, infusing all of your energy field and expansiveness throughout, radiating through you, affecting your reality, immediate and extended reality, and the collective. We also ask your human entity to bring forth the highest version of you, your humanness, your human enrichment, to be part of this human experience right now, fully turned on to the maximum degree, to be expressed and aligned through the whole experience right now. We also ask your human, physical, innate consciousness with your original blueprint, your new advanced blueprint, and your new designed blueprint. Also harnessing the frequency of Gaia and all sentient beings to be expressed fully in this expression. realizing that we play on many, many potential realities. We have many versions of ourselves with our main focal point here. We now call forth the highest versions of all of them to be tuned and brought in as part of our experience right now. And to facilitate us even further, we now bring forth beautiful, powerful columns of fullest expanded expressions, expanded, holistic spectrums of light, frequency, and codes that are being offered to all of our beautiful interactive planets in our solar system and galaxy to stream through us right now, to upgrade us to the degree we're ready, to turn on all the codes we've been receiving to the degree that we are ready. We have our free will. We turn on as we choose to do so, in the highest of service to yourself and to the collective. We also ask our beautiful solar system, our sun, our two suns, the sun we see and the sun that we do not see. We get a glimpse time to time, but it's there. Beautiful in its unique high vibrational frequency that is also powerfully facilitating us on our planet, in our solar system, in our own physical expressions, to move through us, to supercharge us, to energize us, to bring us more online to our true essence. The beautiful expanded spectrum, very holistic and very supportive, to move through us. We also ask and extend a beautiful column of light from the inner crystal of our inner earth with this purified, experientially enriched fifth dimensional consciousness, with all the beautiful contributing beings that were involved, to stream through us, creating a beautiful movement of energy within you. You are bringing yourself online more than ever. As we activate within ourselves our true knowing, we are source. We are the creator. We are our own creation. We are the observer of creation. We are the expander of creation. We are the expander of source. We are the channels, the conduits, and the maps of creating, expanding the human expression, the human aspect, and our planetary playground we call Earth, Gaia, or whatever reference we provide. You are free. You are powerful. You are infinite. You are limitless. You are the key of all that is playing out. You are here for a very specific purpose. That purpose is flexible, expansive, and ever-changing. It changes to complement all the changes that are required. And you are doing this. now. As we are all aligned right now, we are all supporting each other. We're inclusive, not separate. We are one, as we are one beautiful, powerful field, all in our uniqueness. Uniqueness in our expressions, uniqueness of our encodements. We are transforming the human experience. We're creating something that has never been created. Yes, we're bringing back online our true design, but we are upgrading all facets of it through us, each one of us. We are transforming the human experience, every system that applies. We are dissolving the restrictions, the barriers, the divisions, and uniting all of us, freeing ourselves to be ourselves, for that is why you are here. And that is what we are doing together now. So as we pay attention to the breath, we remind ourselves with the breath, we are fluid, expansive beings. We create, we experience our creation, we utilize our creation, and then we dissolve our creation to create something more expansive. That is who we are. As much as we are having this human experience, we are far more than that. But at the same time, we are to embody this beautiful experience, this beautiful human experience. We embody fully. We drop all judgments. We dissolve all patterns. We dissolve all restrictions, all definitions, labels, and so forth. We are undefinable. That is our true nature. We now step into our true nature in fluid state as the breath. A beautiful dance, a beautiful movement with every breath, every new renewal that we create. And that is so. This beautiful integration, activation that we've just did will continue to expand, will continue to activate, will continue to unfold, unpack within you each step of the way. Because you've made it so. You have chosen to participate. You have chosen to be participating and doing this together. And so it is. As we take the next couple of moments just to be focused in the breath, and as we continue to breathe, we gently bring our attention back to our current reality, a reality that has shifted, a reality that is where we are choosing to play. And when comfortable, gently open your eyes and see through a new pair of eyes, eyes that have been illuminated, eyes that are clearer, eyes that can see much more than it saw before. And to feel these beautiful energies moving through you, the renewal that you are experiencing, the passion that you are reigniting, is all you. And all of this is happening because you chose to do so. And you chose to play with us all together. And when comfortable, just open your eyes. Feel yourself present. Thank you for this co-creation. Thank you for this magnificent essence that you are. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you. So you want to do around Sedona. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
All
Love
right,
ya.
let's see. Oh, wait a minute.